Back live tonight here on In Focus. The Electoral Reform Consultation Panel is calling on members of the public and other stakeholders to submit proposals for the National Assembly and the provincial legislatures in writing. The proposals are intended to assist Parliament exercise its constitutional prerogative to determine an efficient electoral system for the country. Chairperson of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, Advocate Richard Sizani, joins us now for more on this. Advocate, good to have you and thank you very much for your time. You are a panel that's been put together by the Department of Home Affairs. Talk to us about your formation and what are the objectives to which you have been formed.
Good evening, my brother. Thank you very much for calling, for giving us this opportunity, and also to the general public. We've been set up by Parliament to say, after we have had elections for 30 years and we had the system of proportional representation, and we also changed it only in 2019 with the idea of including independence. So they said to us as a panel, they set us at the end of the term of the sixth panel. We started on June the 3rd to do our work. They said, go out, research, and also consult and ask people why and how should our electoral system either be changed or amended or reviewed or even replaced. So we are basically asked to research that and also see, are there areas that we need to improve? Do we need to change? Where and why, and whether we should do those changes. Yeah. That's really our mandate.
So somebody would ask, why would you want to change again when the Electoral Amendment Act of 2023 came into effect just last year, 17th of April?
Yes, that amendment, my brother, was just an insertion into the 1998 Act. It was only including the question of independence, only to get them there. We don't know, I can't speak for them, whether even that framework that has been set by that act is there. But there have been basically calls for electoral reform because of course, after some time, we see even how parties now are composed in Parliament. Some people do mention issues about the strength of party leaders in this current system. And of course, it has been acknowledged that in reality, this system itself of proportional representation is the fairest system in the world. Yeah. But there have been some talks. Yes. By people. So the government and Parliament is now giving them an opportunity to say, are there any areas to improve? There's been the question of saying there is lack of accountability to a certain extent, in the sense that you can't either recall or directly deal with a particular representative who is representing you in Parliament. You have to deal with political parties and now independence. But yeah. Independence didn't even get in. Okay.
No, absolutely. It's common cause now, following the May 29th, or even on the way leading up to the May 29th, that there were various legal attempts from independent candidates to challenge this amendment in court. Some of them, of course, were not successful. Some of them got something that they accept, they like, but they still would want for it to be amended. Then tell us then about what the role of these 9 members that make up the panel is going to be.
Our role is to research the strengths and weaknesses of our current system and also compare it with other systems. Then we are supposed to call for submissions, like you've received our call for submission now, where we are calling on people then to make submissions to us on the areas that they would like the system to be improved, changed, or even replaced, and replaced with what. We are also supposed to conduct public hearings. Then after we've done the public hearings, we've done the research and so on, we're supposed to produce some models of an electoral system for South Africa that might be the same, might also have some changes, or might be totally new. which we must give it to Parliament by the 28th of May next year, 2025. In those proposals, we must indicate what electoral systems are there that can fit in South Africa. We must ensure that we give the advantages and disadvantages of those systems. We must also ensure that we cost each electoral model we're coming up with, and then we also test whether each model is constitutional or unconstitutional. But we are not supposed to rank them. We're not supposed to say because it's unconstitutional, it should not go. It should go to Parliament. Parliament will then rank them, will decide which one it wants after May 2025. And they will be able also to say if they need to amend the Constitution or they want to retain a system that is still within the same Constitution.
Yeah, talk to us about that. I mean, we hear now and again whenever bills are signed into law, civil society and other bodies, even private sector, say, no, this thing is unconstitutional, we're going to take it to court and test it, it's going to fail. I don't know what happens with the other bills and whether they go through the same rigorous process, but yourself as a panel, you're saying you're particularly going to stress test this aspect of the constitutionality and the implications thereof. How are you going to approach that?
We're required by law to do that. As we're going amongst ourselves, there are also lawyers, so we're supported by them. But we also have the facility. For instance, what we foresee as of now is that after we've done our report, we might get a panel of senior lawyers or like senior counsel and give our report to say, test it against the various sections of the Constitution, the values in Section 1, the constitutional clauses in Section 46 and Section 105 of the Constitution dealing with proportionality and also dealing with the democratic governance that basically is based on the rule of law and a multi-party system. So we will give that, I think, to a panel of lawyers, senior lawyers, because we are required by legislation itself to table in Parliament. Here is a full legal opinion. Here are what the lawyers are saying about these 4 or 5 or whatever proposals we come up with.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard this before. It's not going to be new to you, but we've spoken to electoral law experts and other stakeholders in this particular space who have said this panel is just a repetition of work that was already done by the Slabbert task team, for example. Why don't we just follow what was recommended in that report instead of putting another panel together?
Well, the Slabbert proposal of 2003 is actually one of the proposals that people will still talk about that are being given a chance now to put it in. At that time, it was rejected, but it recommended that we must have constituencies and we must also have proportional representation, the same system largely that is operating in our local government. So it's up to people to revive it. So you see the difference between us and other panels before is that we are actually not required to make one choice and choose and tell Parliament what to do.
Right.
We make proposals. They will have to take a decision. And people who want those proposals must come in forward and make them so that they are able to also, together with us, to defend them.
So during then the process of consultation, what is going to be the criteria? Because another area that we always hear is there was not adequate consultation. So what is the criteria that is going to be taken that is going to guarantee adequate consultation, that political parties will be taken on board, community activism will be taken on board, and so on and so forth. And of course, we'll get also a demonstration of tangible research data that you will be relying on.
Well, it is quite a tough area, the area of consultation, as you are saying, because the test that is set by the court of sufficient consultation is a test of reasonableness. We are required as decision makers to do everything possible to reach all the stakeholders for them to make their inputs. and we're supposed to put at their disposal sufficient information on what we are consulting them so that they are able to actually influence our decision in what we're going to make. So basically, it is actually factual. Did you go to the rural areas? Did you consult political parties? Did you talk to civil society? Did you actually call for submissions? Did you actually listen to people in public hearings? And did you have some imbizo, likhutla, bosperat, and so on? Did I come and talk to, on your channels? Did we advertise in papers throughout? So it's quite a number of things that we have to do as reasonable as possible, and we are considering all those methods to ensure that we reach everybody. And we are going to also hold an international conference where we are going to call people from abroad to come and actually talk to us as to what lessons we can learn from them. So, and we will be in all the provinces, public hearings, and listening to people themselves, because our task basically by Parliament is research this, listen, consult people, and also hear and listen to them and come and report back to us.
So for interested parties and South African citizens in particular, I mean, what we've heard so far is that you're not members of Parliament. Two, you're not members of any provincial legislature. What you've also mentioned is some of you have the necessary skills as far as the law is concerned. What other skills and expertise and experience and knowledge is contained in the panel?
You can see, for instance, in people like Advocate Pensitlakula, Michael Hendricks, Norman du Plessis, and so on, that those are people who have been with the IEC, some of them in managing elections in the country and monitoring elections outside and even in local government and so on. Those people are now with us in this panel. They have been since 1994. Doing modeling, looking at elections and administering elections. There are people who have studied somewhere in Africa, Uganda, and so on elections and so on, who have participated in this. There are also doctors of politics, and there are advocates of law amongst the team that we have, and current experienced people in running the current electoral system.
Yeah. Do you see any challenges to the timeline? I think it's 12 months that would have been set, but I hear you speaking of a report being delivered by May.
The legislation itself in Section 23 allows us, if we think 3 months before the end of the deadline of May, to actually approach the Minister of Home Affairs and request for an extension of not more than 6 months. So the section, the Electoral Act, Amendment Act of 2023 does have that provision in section 23, and therefore we can use that opportunity if we don't think so. But looking at our program and our timelines that we have set, we think we will make the deadline of May 2025. You must remember the process, this system that will be put in place will be for the elections of 2029.
Indeed.
They only apply to provincial and national parliament.
Right.
Local government systems we're not touching.
Right, right. Advocate, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for that explanation and for coming through this evening. Advocate Richard Sizani, Chairperson of the Electoral Reform Consultation Panel, on the work that they are about to engage in. Right, let's take a break. We'll continue with what's making news in a moment. Stay with us.